There are stories that have never been told, and there are those that should never be told.
Imoke is the Gaelic festival marking the beginning of spring. Every Imoke, thousands of people visited Mary's Well near Dundalk. They crept around the well on their knees 9 times in a westerly direction. This, they believed, would cure all their ailments. Then they would go away and begin their harvest. A man called Jack Fawkes had just completed this ritual and was heading for his fields with his scythe on his back. From the hedgerow, he heard a chirrup sound, somewhat like that of a cricket. He wondered if it was a hoarse chaffinch, but it was too late for their song. He walked on, but he heard the sound again. This time, it sounded more distinct. Tick-tack-too, tick-tack-too. Slowly, it began to dawn on Jack what the noise might be, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. He rose up on his tiptoes and peeped over the hedge and saw nothing, and it had gone quiet all of a sudden. He walked on further, and soon he heard the tapping sound again. He pushed the bushes aside and saw a little man sitting by a lass no bigger than a farthing, shaping a tiny shoe that shone like gold. The hammer with which he worked with was the size of a pin. As he tapped, his pointed cap waved backwards and forwards, almost hypnotizing Jack, but not enough to divert his attention from the shoemaker. Jack knew he was looking at a leprechaun, and he remembered that the fairy could lead him to a crock of gold if he made sure to keep his eyes on him. He laid his scythe down and crept closer. "Bolo ye are, another bowl," said Jack, and quickly added in English, "God bless the work," in case the fellow didn't know Irish. "Gora me got, and thank you too," the shoemaker answered, smiling. "It's a hot day. Would you take a sup?" he said, reaching for a jar that lay by his stool. He had hoped Jack would look towards the vessel, but instead, Jack fixed his gaze more intently and asked, "What is that you're drinking?" "Best of course whiskey, the water of life, Ishanka Baha," replied the leprechaun. "You'd never get whiskey made from gorse, maybe a sweet wine, but not whiskey." "Well, give it a try if you doubt me," replied the leprechaun. "Just reach down and hand me up a glass." Jack was smart again. He resisted looking away from the leprechaun, but kept his eyes firmly on him. The leprechaun tried everything he did. He told Jack that his cattle were breaking out of the field behind him. He shouted that Jack's scythe was going to fall and cut his neck. He said he had heather beer as well as whiskey, and that if he drank that, he would live forever. The recipe had been handed down in my family for generations. The Malaysians brought it over to Ireland and gave it to us. "And what is your name?" Jack asked. "Night and Day and Far Away." "Well, that's a strange name." "So's yours, Jack Fawkes. Do you live in a covert up on the Cooley Mountains or what?" joked the leprechaun. "How is it that you know my name?" demanded Jack. "Why wouldn't I know it? Sure, I've been living on your farm for longer than you yourself." Jack felt he ought to broach the subject of the crock of gold. "Well, you'd better bring me to the end of the rainbow where your pot of money lies," he ordered. The leprechaun laughed. "Where did you hear that nonsense?" "Come on now, I know it's true. Bring me to your crock of gold immediately," said Jack, making his face as angry as possible. Well, the little man began to look frightened, and Jack threatened to roast him over a griddle if he didn't hurry up. "All right then, I'll tell you where it is. But it isn't at the end of the rainbow. Come on then and follow me," said the leprechaun, and he made to go on ahead. Jack grabbed him and held on tight, keeping his eyes fixed on the leprechaun. And so they made their way over the stiles and across the streams and fields, practically glued to each other, until at last they came to a field covered with dandelions. "There you are," said the leprechaun, pointing to one flower. "It's under that cashervan. There you must dig. But I must be on my way now, for I have many more shoes to make for the dance tonight, and I'll be in trouble if no one has any shoes to dance in." "Hold it now," said Jack. "Swear on your honor that the crock is under there, and then I'll let you go." I swear on my honor and all my ancestors that it's there." "All right, then. Away you go, and Sloan," said Jack. "Sloan is Banat, health and a blessing," said the Leprechaun, and Jack thought he caught a glint in his eye. Jack had nothing else but his stocking with which to mark the flower, so he took it off, and he put it over the dandelion. Then he went off home to fetch a spade. When he got back, he told his wife the story. He said that they would be rich, and that they never need work again. He whistled with delight as he grabbed his spade and returned to the field of dandelions. When he got there, he screamed with anger. On every dandelion in 50 acres, there was a sock exactly the same color as his own. "That trickster's fooled me rightly," bewailed Jack. "I could dig for 100 years here and still never find the right place." A flurry of wind rose behind him and blew across the expanse of the stockings as they fluttered in the same hypnotizing way that the Leprechaun's hat had done when Jack had first seen him working at his last. Jack swore he could hear hundreds of dandelions laughing. Dejected and downcast, he returned home and told his wife of his failure. "Well, at least I won't have to knit you another stocking for donkey's years." And with that, they both burst out laughing and saw the humor of it all. You believe me, don't you?
From the edge of the imagination, you've been listening to Appalachian storyteller and author Tracy Turner.